I'm weird. I never want to perform again because I don't need this. It wasn't selfless or anything else. It was just, I just went, fuck, I actually like this. I like putting on the headset and standing on the floor and hearing what's going right and wrong and conveying stuff to the town. All that stuff was cool to me. And then I had been such a fan of the work that you did as a stand-up, especially for so long, that when we got together and started talking about stuff, it fit in that when I got hired for that job, and getting hired for that job was just its own unique story. I don't know if we have time for it, but
6 minutes.
6 minutes. But it was I came in, you set me up with the meeting with you, Barry, and Morty.
Right.
I came into Barry's office, Barry Katz. We sat down, and you did what you do. Is you went, Morty, this is KP. He's the fucking greatest guy in the world. We got high at the dog park the other day. He's going to fucking head write the show. Okay? So listen, here's some stuff I wanted. And you owned that meeting. It was your meeting, and we
Barry goes, no biting, man.
Yeah. And I left that meeting, and I had to go on the road to, it was like New Mexico, and it was for New Year's Eve. Barry calls me on the road. And he goes, you blew it, pal.
What?
What? And I go, what?
I don't know this.
You fucking blew it. And
You
I go,
blew
I
it,
did?
man.
And he goes,
look at KP's face when he does Barry.
Yeah, you go in there and you sit down, and Jay's in there, and Jay just rides all over the conversation because you don't come with any plans or any ideas for the show, and Morty doesn't know what your fucking voice is, so as much as Jay wants you, now we got to fight with Morty to fucking have you because no one knows what, and it was that Barry, like, when Barry chastises you, but he fucking loves you and he's trying to teach you something along the way. And I was just...
He is the Pat Morita.
Yeah, and I'm out in the middle of the
Nothing?
desert going, fuck, I thought I had that job.
Nothing on Barry's Pat Morita?
No, that was fun, yeah.
All right, that's all I wanted.
Sorry.
You didn't hear it.
Sorry, yeah.
That was too good.
So my poor wife...
KP's in New Mexico hand karate chopping the tops off beer bottles on the hood of his car to prove himself when he comes back.
But my wife was like, my poor wife had to fucking deal with me for 3 days on the road, knowing that I didn't get the only job that I had wanted for the last 2-3 years. I was miserable. Drove back to LA right after we got done with the show. Got into my house and just fucking buried myself into writing that Bible for the show and all the stuff and pitches and everything, because Barry set up one more meeting. You, Morty, and I, we went back in and I laid out my ideas for the show then. And that's when you were able to go, that's the guy, Bob.
My whole thing about running the meeting is I'm not going, here's KP, and then maybe you could bring in 3 guys that you think would be the best head writer for me.
Yeah.
I bring my guy in. This is the head writer. Yeah. Everything will work itself out. Now let's move on to other shit.
Yeah.
And then I just have trust in the universe that you're going to circle back around when I'm done yelling in a meeting and bring in the show Bible.
And I didn't. And so then I finally did.
We should say, and you were exceptional at the job, and you ran the most motley crew writing staff. Yeah. Well, Ralphie May, Ian Edwards, Barry Sobel, Rob Raymond. I mean, I really think you could have opened the fucking CVS in the writer's room.
It was an interesting
uppers,
little moment
downers,
in time.
Blues, yellows, screamers.
God damn. It was an amazing moment. But to that point, the reason that you and I worked at that point, have worked well ever since, is just that we caught each other at the right moment in time. I really, from basically a week before we talked in the dog park through that period of time, I've been doing what I wanted to do with my career. So I suddenly wasn't sitting there going, oh, fucking maybe, Jay travels, maybe it'll be a plane crash and it'll be Anderson Sports. That wasn't my, that wasn't my mentality.
That's got to be the hardest gig, writing. I've never been on a writing staff. I would like to be. Yeah. I would do it in a second. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But every good idea you have is to make Joel McHale funnier. And Joel McHale at no point in the soup goes, God damn, KP Anderson is a brilliant son of a bitch.
Hey, that's not he does, just like you, he does plenty of times away from it. Yeah. And there's enough of
or Bill Maher, I guess, would be a better example, because Bill probably is not as reciprocating with his positive reinforcements. He's too busy banging playmates and getting grass.
I think I just watch, if you get a chance to TiVo A Week in Real Time. It's a kind of a reality look, a documentary look at a week of putting PI together. It was fascinating to me because I only did that job for
politically. It's a week of politically incorrect.
I only did PI for two different chunks of a year and a half span.
Magnum PI you're talking about.
Yeah. But a lot of those guys are still there. So that's the interesting thing to me about Bill.
It's Billy Martin.
You look and you see Billy Martin and you see Chris Case and you see Brian Jacobsmeyer and you see the writers who've been writing for him all this time, you go, loyalty is not an issue with this guy. Like, if he feels like he's getting what he needs from you, then you can work for him as long as you can fucking keep, as long as you can keep up that standard. He is a cranky motherfucker. He's always been. But he was always, like, after
he was the only guest on Mohr Sports where we got in an argument during the interview.
Yeah.
Because he came in with some cockamamie idea like to equalize the playing field in baseball. The teams that spend over $80 million, you dock them wins and the team. But his math was off.
Yeah.
But he was so steadfast in his argument that as I was arguing, I'm going, did I just fuck this complete segment up? Because he's telling me the numbers. But I know that the only reason I'm talking is because the numbers are wrong. But he's telling me, like, with that, oh, God. And Bill Maher, I like all of his shows. I would like to be on Real Time. I don't know why I've never been asked. But, hey, what do you get? You need you need the mayor of Newark on for the 11th time.
Yeah.
But Bill Maher always lets you know when the joke comes because he leans into the camera and he points over his shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, but like Danny Vermont, the writer that I shared an office with on PI, when you'd go, how do you score a joke with this fucking guy? Because there were only 5 jokes in the monologue. Yeah. Danny would go, picture him pointing over his shoulder. If you can picture that, you can start getting the jokes in. And fuck if it didn't work. Like, if you'd go,
you really did that?
Yeah. Like,
did you do that with me? Like, did you have to picture me doing
you don't
something?
have those tells. You have your whole thing in terms of finding and defining your voice was that laugh right there was like if I knew it was going to be something that would trigger the laugh out of you when you're reading it, then you would start into the process of owning it. Then you would start investing yourself in the joke and figuring out how you're going to, work your head around it. I don't think we ever did a joke on that show or any of the NASCAR awards or Last Comic or anything where you did the joke specifically as it was written on the page and in prompter. And that was the thing that would always let you know that you were in the game, was because you have a unique capacity for memorization. So you would, but the way you start to do it, it seems like is, I'm going to fuck you up for all of your future shows. But the way you start to do it is by figuring out the words that sound like you that are going to intersperse everything between the setup and the punchline. And so it's a more interesting thing with you. With Joel, he just starts to covet the exact order of words. You always are, and Bill's weird because Bill will take like 3 words out of the premise and 1 word out and the last word in the punchline and have only those in the teleprompter. But
really?
Then he'll do it exactly as it's written. Yeah.
For real?
Yeah,
like
he's got a crazy brain, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He always struck me as super smart.
Yeah, he's got a crazy fucking mind.
So he has bullet points that lead him into like a 4-minute joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's a fascinating thing.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like everybody, and that's the fun part of when you're working with people who either you really like and you like working with, or you're working with people who you really can respect their, like with Bill, I was too green. It was my second writing job ever. So I was too green and too terrified to be like, hey, Bill, let's go sit down in your office and talk about what we just did. And it wasn't really my place or my job. By the time I got to you, it was just starting to be my place. And again, that's the thing that works out. That's the thing.
Well, I told you too, stay in Morty's pocket. I want you to be the guy talking to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that becomes,
I wanted a comic.
Yeah. Yeah. So that becomes, my day just got better. So that becomes the process by which, hi Nick, by which the relationship between a comic writer and a comic performer can work out.
If you take one other writer from all the staffs you've written on, you get one guy to handpick to bring with you to whatever your next job is. Who is it?
Ooh. It's tough. On the Soup, there's been such a long-standing
Just give me a name.
John Mohr.
That's the name I was looking for. The Colonel?
John Mohr. Yeah.
And this is a great way to end this because you talk about confluence of events and weird shit that happens and me meeting you at the dog park and fucking Ralphie becoming Henry Kissinger behind the scenes. Diplomatic. Listen, we must surrender with dignity.
Yeah.
John Mohr came in with all of his samples, and we had staffed Mohr Sports completely with your and Bob Morty's blessings. And John Mohr comes in and blows us away. There is not a penny left in the budget. And Barry goes, look, I'll be honest with you. Don't take it hard, man. You're real funny. And John Mohr is a fucking hillbilly. Like, barely has shoes. He's out of the goddamn woods of fucking Kentucky. He is an absolute fucking mouth-breathing, corncob pipe smoking, moonshine fucking, somehow runs a fantasy football league on someone else's computer hillbilly. He's the guy that goes to the Wi-Fi. He gets the Wi-Fi in Scottsville, Kentucky, Holiday Inn Express. And Barry's like, basically just trying to tell him, you don't have the job, but don't worry, it's not that good of a job. Barry goes, let's be honest, man. If you got the job, you'd be working for a bucket of chicken and a Subway token. And then John Mohr leaves. The next day, we're all sitting around, kicking ideas around. There's a delivery. It's a fucking Subway token, New York City Subway token, and a bucket of the Colonel's finest. And from that moment forward, John Holland Mohr was known as the Colonel.
The Colonel.
And he is, I'm so glad you just said his name. How funny you had, and then we had to like carve 3 people out of the show just to make room for that guy that's that funny.
Yeah, and he came on as a producer who would write. Like, we went, okay, you can submit jokes.
Now look here, and his specialty was funerals. There was an awkward moment at the funeral.
When, but he scored as much as anybody did on that show, if not more. I don't want to take credit away because I don't fully remember everybody.
Ralphie scored the best. Oddly though, Ralphie snuck in the best death joke. Which was the founder of the LPGA died. I forget the name. He finishes at 6 under. And John Mohr was always like in NASCAR, like trying to get the casket in the driver's side window, or like one of the Globetrotters died. There was an awkward moment, but he would have like 2 pages of one person's funeral, and there was an awkward moment at the funeral.
He's still
when they threw confetti at the casket.
No.
John Mohr should be like the go-to funeral. There is an awkward moment here. Now look here, motherfucker.
If you were John Mohr, would you think any more about death than you need to? I'm just saying.
So that's good. So John Mohr is your guy. John Mohr is the guy that you put in the time capsule. KP Anderson at IKP Anderson. Letter I, letter K, letter P, letters Anderson.
Yes.
And you are the executive producer. You're the guy that saved the soup. How do they bring it back? It was off the air.
They brought it back. The guy who runs our studio, Jay James, who's a fucking great guy.
In 20 seconds or less.
Yeah. Came up with a show called the What the Awards, which was a terrible name for a show, but it was going to be an awards show based on behavior and reality shows. They hired Joel, and Ted Harbert went, it's the soup. Call it the soup. It's talk soup without the talk part. It's the soup. And that's it. Yep.
You and I right now, we're going to put this shit down, and people want to hashtag more stories. Who is in charge over there? We got to start a Twitter campaign. You and I, we're going to do a talk show.
Yes.
It's going to be The Daily Show meets Chelsea Lately.
Yes.
And you're going to be the executive producer and head writer.
I am so very down with that.
Nick will write and produce.
Yeah.
Charlie will bring fucking Charlie Eyes on board.
Yep.
And me, and we'll put that shit on E, and we'll dominate. Let's fucking, I'm not kidding at all.
Yeah. No, I know.
Let's fucking movies, TV shows. No. You don't understand. What I'm doing right now is a talk show on E.
Yes.
With my friend KP Anderson.
Hashtag more stories on E.
You want to do it?
Yeah. Let's fucking throw it out there.
Who do we inundate with tweets about that? I guess.
You can tweet at the soup. I mean, that's a good place to start, or at E Online.
But then it's just like some intern going, wow, there sure are a lot of tweets about other people.
No,
really?
Everybody fucking reads that shit. They're obsessed with what we
So
say.
Tweet at the soup about Jay Mohr, KP Anderson's new talk show. Just tweet them like it's already going on, so that way they'll come to KP and they'll have to give you more money to stay.
Yep. No John Mohr. I'm not working with that fucking guy ever again.
No, never again. And hopefully we'll shoot at CBS. To bring it full circle. We'll find that big wheel. I'll take out the security guard, and you spin that wheel as hard as you can, Christian. You spin it as hard as you can.
I will.
Thanks for doing it. I love you, brother.